Hey guys, this is going to be a two-part video. The first part of it is going to be a balayage that we're doing to brighten my client up. And then the second part are these hand-tied wefts that we'll be doing. I mean, look at this. You can't even tell that there's extensions in her hair. Keep watching to see how we created this look. You can follow me on Instagram at Christy@thecottage. Hey guys, so for my client today, she's kind of like a level 7, 6, 7 dirty blonde. She was blonde previously and put like a semi-permanent color on top of it, so now it's kind of like a dishwater color. We're going to be doing a fun service. We're going to be doing hand-tied extensions from Fresh Flip Hair. We're going to be doing 2 rows of that where it's a little bit more of like a rooty look and then it gets nice and bright and blonde. So for her color today, it's the first time I've done her hair. We're going to still leave it a little bit rooty, but definitely bring a lot of blonde through the ends and brighten her up a lot. And then we're going to go through and sew in her extensions. So we're going to mix our lightener. We're going to do Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume and olaplex and go from there. Okay, so here's her before. You can see where her blonde used to be, so I wanted to make sure that I was extra cautious to make sure I was paying attention that we weren't going to be damaging her hair. And so we're using olaplex. To start, we're going to be going through and doing around her face. She wants it to be pretty natural when she pulls her hair back, so we're going to back comb directly on her hairline to create more of a shadowed money piece. So it's gonna go up pretty high but still have a little bit of a softer root to it. And then directly on her hairline, I'm not gonna do my typical 2 to 3 foils that I normally do, just because she still wants to keep the majority of her natural roots and not have to worry about bad grow out. So this is about as far up that we're going to go on her hairline. Pretty close, but we're still gonna leave just a little bit of room there, so that way as her hair grows out, she doesn't feel like she needs to come back in within like the next 7 weeks. Again, we're going to go in with a pretty thick weave, and because this section is pretty big but we're weaving, I'm not too worried about if it's going to be too bold of a money piece up front, just because we're back combing, we're weaving it quite a bit, so she is going to have that shadow there, but then also that dropout section from her weave is going to really break up her money piece, so that way it blends really nicely into her roots and keeps enough of her natural hair in there for some more dimension. Right here is where I normally would go in with my foils that are directly around the hairline. So if you have a client that wants to be nice and bright directly on the hairline, all around her face, then do some vertical weaves on her hairline. Any other video that you watch, it's very random that I don't foil that way. So if you want to know how I foil my clients, just really go to any of my blonding videos and you can watch how I foil around the hairline, and that will give your client a lot of nice soft brightness as if the sun naturally highlighted their hair, and it will be pretty minimal grow because it's pretty soft and natural looking. So if you want to watch that, just check out really any of my other blonding videos. But my client here wants to keep enough of her roots so that way she doesn't feel like she has to come in. This is the first time doing her hair, and I really don't know what her schedule is that she likes doing with her hair, so I don't want to do it too bright. However, the pictures that she did send me were pretty bright but kind of rooty at the same time, so it's kind of trying to figure out like that happy medium with your clients between, you know, just enough of a low maintenance color but still bright enough to where they feel like they got their hair done. So we're going to be doing some diagonal weaves back away from the face. And I've been doing my foil or my balayage this way in my foils. I feel like it gets a lot of coverage. It helps blend really nicely. Somebody asked me, how do you make sure that you have a nice blend with your balayage? And this is how I always do mine. I always do zigzag partings. That way that helps create more of a blend, so that when all of the hair just falls down, it's not like you have a straight line. There's going to be some natural hairs that fall into that zigzag parting. And then also weave the hair too, because then again, that natural hair will kind of fall and break up through the blonde. So for me, that's the best way that I can say to get a better blend with your balayage. Also, if you do diagonal sectioning, not just with the zigzag, but kind of angle the parting, I feel like that really helps to create a good blend too. So you kind of have to figure out what works for you and getting the best blend. Always back combing the hair makes a big difference too. It just helps soften it up and eliminate any lines that might occur. So just play with the hair. The more you practice and the more you find out what tricks works for you, the better that you'll get. Okay, now that we're getting to the top of her head, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm just directly underneath her part right now. And because we want to maintain more of a rooty, natural look, I'm going right on her part and I'm kind of doing a diagonal zigzag down the side of her head along her part. So this is going to maintain the majority of the darkness, like, is going to fall on top of her blonde. So we're doing a pretty heavy amount of blonde underneath her hair. So that way she's going to have a lot of movement within her hair, but the very top layer is going to have the majority of her natural color. So this is going to be a really good way to feel like she's lightening up quite a bit. But when her hair falls down, she's still going to have a lot of her natural color there. So that way she's not going to feel like she has any grow out. So I'm starting on the other side now, and we're going to work our way up, and you can see here better how much of a weave that I'm doing. These sections are pretty fine, but it's just enough for her to feel like she's going to be nice and bright. And right in here, you can see that I'm taking the bleach up higher towards the front of the face and then dropping it down a little bit further as we get to the back of the head. So this is going to preserve a little bit more brightness around the face, but then towards the crown of her head, it's going to be a little bit more dark and have a little bit more of a rooty look. Here you can see that we're just taking a really fine section directly under the part again. So all of this blonde is going to fall underneath her hair. And then once we get to the very top section of her hair, that's going to fall on top of all the foils and all of the blonde that we're doing. And I'm just going to go through and back comb and paint more of just the very ends of her hair. That way we preserve that natural root that she's wanting and creating more of a low maintenance blonde balayage. But then her roots are going to flow really nicely into some brighter blonde tips. And as we work our way to the back of the head, we're just going to do a few panels that are more up to the root area. That way she has, you know, a nice blend, but it's not going to go up quite as high as we did on the sides. That way it kind of creates more of a teardrop shape where it's brighter around the face, but then as we get to the back of the head, it kind of drops down to be a little bit darker in the root area. So we're not doing quite as much blonde and we're not taking it as high as we get to the back. And I'm not doing a full blonding pattern all the way in the back area. I'm really just gonna do like maybe 3 or 4 of these panels a little bit higher up into the root area, and then that's it. I'm not gonna go all the way down to like the nape of the neck. And then once we have these little panels that we're making, then we're gonna go through and paint through the ends of the hair all over. Now that we have our panels in, we're going to go through and just back comb these dropout sections and just go from like the midsection down through the ends. And this is going to create a really nice flow from being nice and rooty to just a little bit of a soft blonde through a brighter blonde to the ends. So this way it will blend really nicely and she'll feel like she has a really soft natural blonde from dark to light. Now we're going to go through and finish brightening up through the front of her face. And this, again, we want to take this a little bit higher just because we are directly at the front area and we want to be a little bit brighter directly around the face. So we are going to take that back comb up a little bit higher than we did in the back area, and then we make sure that we're saturating pretty heavily through the ends. That way we get a nice bright blonde. And as we get to this back section where we're just going to go through the bottom part of her hair, you can see that we're not bringing the bleach up nearly as high as we did around the front of her face. This is because, again, we're trying to maintain a lot of her natural roots. And honestly, the extensions that we're using, they have a shadow root painted on the top of the weft. So this is just going to help blend her extensions in with her natural hair, because we're painting her hair to be pretty rooty and the extensions are pretty rooty. So everything's just going to flow really nicely together. And you can see here that we painted through all the rest of her ends. And at this point, we pre-toned with Fanola No Yellow shampoo and did an Olaplex treatment. Okay, so my client is finished processing and we pre-toned her with Fanola No Yellow shampoo, and then she sat with an Olaplex treatment on her hair for about 10 minutes. So we're going to tone her now, and we're trying to match some extensions, and the extensions aren't necessarily like too cool. So I'm gonna tone her hair, and I'm just gonna use Paul Mitchell the Demi 10V with the processing solution. This way it will brighten her hair up, and it will still be kind of like, I don't think it's gonna cool it down too much because there is some warmth in the hair. I think doing the 10V will just brighten it up and blend really nicely with the extension. So that's what we're gonna mix for. Okay, I stand corrected. Doing her hair, I did not think it was gonna grab, but look at how violety it is. I did not know that was gonna happen. So here's her natural hair, and then after doing the blonding service, this is what her hair looks like and how bright she got. And she still has definitely a lot of roots, but nice and blonde through the ends. And here's the hair that we're using, Fresh Flip Hair. You guys should go follow them on Instagram. They have amazing hair. It's really soft. I really love it. And to start with her hair, we're going to measure to try and fit the extensions. So when you're doing hand tied wefts, first of all, you need to like take a class. Don't just watch a video, because there's like so many steps and tricks involved. Like watching a YouTube video, I don't think is going to be like the education you need. But just so you know, when you start, you want to make sure that you're doing like 2 finger widths above the ear. That way, as the wefts grow out over like 6 to 8 weeks or so, they start hanging down a little bit more, and you don't want them to hit the ears because that would be really irritating. So that's what I'm sizing for or measuring for is placing my hand on her ears and making sure that I'm up high enough as I do her parting. And then, so this is the first time that I'm using fresh flip hair. I've done extensions with their hair before, but that's when I've done them on other people that I know, and it's like their hair has already been installed before, so it's already like sewed together and I didn't have to measure. And so this is the first time that I'm actually having to measure a client using their hair. And holy cow, their wefts are so long. And normally you don't go this far up into the hairline, but because the wefts are so long that I did have to bring them up a little bit closer than what I normally would. And then also I'm dropping them down a little bit further in the back, again, because they are so long, a little bit further than I normally would. So this process can take probably like 20 minutes or so, just trying to make sure that you're measuring correctly and having to like resection and whatnot. So now I'm making sure that I'm even on both sides, and then I'm going to take my little clip and I'm going to just put it right there to make sure that I know where the sectioning needs to start for each side of the weft. I'm not going to be doing the technique for the hand-tied wefts that requires a string. Sometimes I just feel like the string just makes it a little bit more difficult, and I've done this technique a few times and I really like it just because it's so much more simpler, and I feel like it just cuts my time in half. Like I like using the string part, but I feel like I'm just always questioning myself and like, oh God, am I doing this right? Or did I forget a step or whatever, where this is just so much more like, it's just so much easier. And where I learned this technique is from, I don't know if you guys know him on Instagram, Platinum Perfection or Zach Mesquite. He has a private Instagram group called Platinum Posse, and you have to go to his Instagram if you're interested in his education. This is where I learned this technique. He goes into a lot of detail on his videos that he does. He saves them all for you. He specializes in blonding. You can go to his Instagram and then check out the site to sign up. And I'm just going to be honest with you, it's super affordable. It's only like, I want to say like $30 a month or something like that. And he'll go on there. He spends a lot of time with you. He'll say like, ask me questions. He'll go live and answer every question that anybody has. And he's just super informative. And I appreciate that he takes the time to like spend with us, because there are some other people that I've done paid memberships for, and it's like they'll post like 4 videos and call it good, and I'm like, you know what, I'm canceling that because you really ain't giving me shit that I already don't know. Like I want to keep learning and growing it in my knowledge, or seeing tricks that maybe I don't know about yet. And so I'll cancel those memberships because it's like they haven't posted anything since like February or whatever, where Zach really makes sure to be involved in his private Instagram page and to post on there and to do lives and to give little tutorials and classes. And then the nice thing is that he saves it, so you can always go back and check out the stories again, or check out the information that he's posting. Like just for these, like this is where I learned how to do these hand-tied wefts, and I probably went back and watched that whole session like 4 times just to make sure that I knew exactly what I was doing, that I was confident in it. So I highly recommend you checking out his group. It's Platinum Posse on Instagram. It's super affordable, and I couldn't recommend it enough because it really helps you step your game up and feel more confident in what you're doing. Okay, now that we have her foundation made, I'm going to go through and again measure the wefts again and place them, and they come with multiples in the pack. So sometimes you might do like 4 wefts around the head at a time. So we're going to place all of our wefts around, secure them, and then we're going to start sewing them in together. You just need to make sure that when you're sewing that you pay attention to make sure you're grabbing all of the wefts, because some of them can kind of fall down and you don't want to have the wefts slip. So just make sure that you're pinning them up there and securing them in place to make sure that you're stitching them in nicely as you work your way around the head. And here I'm just securing the knot with a little bit of Gorilla Glue, which be careful because this shit is scary. I was twisting off the lid, but like instead of just the lid, I actually pulled the whole applicator out, and all of this Gorilla Glue, like, I mean, this thing went flying, and as fast as I pulled it out, I shoved it back in almost immediately because I mean, can you imagine Gorilla Glue like everywhere? It got on my station, it got on the floor. I like wiped it really quickly so that way at least if it hardened, like it was just flat to the surface. But like I got some on my nail, and here we are like 5 days later and it's still there. Like I need to file it down or something. But anyways, that was just a scary moment and I almost didn't survive. As we are doing our stitch work, we're starting about 1.5 inches away from the end of the weft, and then we're going to stitch all the way forward to make sure that the ends of the wefts are nice and secure. And you don't want to leave a part of that out because then there's going to be like this little edge that's just kind of flopping around or sticking out from the scalp. So you need to make sure that you're stitching all the way to the end of the weft and then stitching back in the opposite direction again to go make your way around the back of the head. That way it kind of double secures everything and make sure it's nice and snug against the head. And I don't even feel like I should tell you guys this stuff because it's not going to be enough information for you to like be able to do a full set if you haven't like done any training or anything. But anyways, yeah, again, you need to do like a paid training to really get the like your practice in and make sure that you're learning everything, because this is like really hard. Like this is the hardest type of extensions that I've ever done. But here we go. That was our first row, and then we just repeated the second row again, and now we're curling her hair, and you'll be able to see that her hair, and I knew this as I was like putting the extensions in. Normally I would like tone the hair, but I knew that it was warm and like kind of a yellowy blonde, but I didn't think it was that yellow. And then when I toned her hair with the V, it grabbed a lot, but like I didn't realize it was, I just thought it was going to be like a nice bright blonde. I didn't know that it was actually going to grab super violety. So I kind of was like wondering, okay, do I retone her hair or what do I do? I thought it would blend. Even though it's super violety, I felt like when she washes her hair like a time or two, it's that overtone is going to fall out and it will blend a lot better. Here's her natural hair before we put the extensions in, and then here you can see like the first time that we did her hair, how much like the tones don't match. So she actually ended up coming back a few days later, and this is after the overtone had faded. She washed her hair once with purple shampoo. You can see how much more blended the color is. Like it matches so much better. It's so pretty. I love it so much. So this is actually the second time that she came in, and then we restyled her just to like snip the ends up. She wasn't comfortable with how long the hair was, but now the color matches so much better, and I just think it looks so pretty. But thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry I started rambling. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.